education, you are ready to go. So you can now send your resume to this agency and be ready to take on projects. And paralegals. Paralegals also play a role in this. They don't need to have international certification, but what they need to be is familiar with those rules I spoke about, and it's generally relevance, privilege, that sort of a thing. I put there that the Jamaican Civil Procedure Rules, Part 28, is a great start for anyone, and also just to look online on YouTube to see how those e-discovery software would work. And lastly, as I wrap up, I know what's on everybody's mind, or the minds of many, is will it be worthwhile financially? I can tell you, in the US, it was worthwhile for me. And when I did a little research on how persons felt about the BPO sector, they were happy because it really has provided more jobs. But a lot of persons are concerned that will we be able to keep, as Jamaicans, a competitive rate? I believe there's a lot of space for the rate to be competitive in that it helps to cut the 20% that Marlon spoke about, because legal services in the US is pretty expensive. I believe that both sectors can benefit. I believe you can offer a competitive rate and it still be attractive to a graduate from the law school, and even someone who is 3, 4, 5 years at the bar and beyond. So when I did document review, the persons sitting with me were persons who just had their baby and they didn't want to be in a full-fledged, hardcore litigation practice where you'd be really be coming home on the train 10 o'clock at night. They wanted a little bit more flexibility. So they're extremely qualified, but at a different place in their life. Some persons were looking to go into the banking sector as lawyers, and so they wanted to get on some kind of projects where they were seeing things go wrong in banking and how they could be fixed. They wanted that global perspective. And shortly after, a year or two, they would be off temporary projects, that's what it's called, temporary projects, and on to their full-time job. So there was no stigma attached to it, like, oh my gosh, you're doing temporary work, what's the problem? It was more a strategic part of your strategic plan after law school. And I would love for this opportunity to be here for all Jamaican law students who I know, many have spoken to me, and they're like, oh my God, I wish I'd started this 10 years ago because there's now so many lawyers. Will I be able to find a job? I believe this is a great opportunity for Jamaican law students to really be able to get a global perspective. Maybe you'll change your mind and do your master's somewhere else and get more foreign training or something like that. But it will give you, I believe it will energize the sector and give you a fresh perspective. So I hope I've been of assistance.
All right, so I must say this morning, I'm extremely happy. I'm very excited to be a part of change, a changing environment. An environment which will see the trajectory of the legal arena becoming completely different. And sometimes we resist change. We resist change because we think it is something that is difficult to do. We resist it because we have a lack of a belief system. We also resist change because we say to ourselves, I have been doing this thing this way, and I will continue to do it. And so I know that as attorneys, we tell ourselves we go to law school to get an education, and what we have got that education to do is to practice. And practice we will, but what we have in mind is a traditional way of doing business, a traditional way of doing the law. But I must say to you that change is something to be embraced. Barack Obama went on that agenda of change, and he became the president of the United States of America. So if you look within the context before I start, we need to address our minds to getting to a stage in our career that we want to embrace this change. Otherwise, whatever it is we are saying to you here today will be of no significance. Because whether we want to accept this or not, what really is this business of legal process outsourcing? We are using technology, we are using people, and we are using a process. So it's really a fusion of technology, people, and process. Gone are the days when a young lawyer left law school and you have to go and do some mundane stuff in a law firm. Gone are those days. Gone are the days when you get up in an office, even as a senior person, and you twiddle your thumbs because there's nothing to do or you do not have much business inside there. Gone are those days. I'm here to say to you that the legal process outsource industry has heralded a change, both for graduates and for senior lawyers, law firms. Law firms, I'm going to speak to you particularly at this point in time, because the fact that I was asked to speak based on the fact that I have set up a legal process outsourcing firm means, and where JAMPRO 2 is trying to head on this government, where they're trying to head is in fact for entities to establish legal process outsourcing centers apart from operating simply from your home, or you need to see it as a business in itself, in the same way that the BPO sector has really mushroomed, blossomed into a huge business. And I see that happening in Jamaica within a very short period of time. We are in a global space, and the reasons given for this business doing so well in India, in all of those other places, is simply because of the matter of globalization and people needing to get their work done elsewhere at a cheaper cost. The demand is also there because people are talking about efficiencies of scale. Where the LPO is concerned, people for some type of matters can give their matters to a firm overnight and have it in their hands the next morning because there's no time limit. We go to work at the law firm 8:30 in the morning and we finish at 5 or at 6 or at 7 if you're going overtime and all of that. This business has no time limit. Depending on the client you're working for, you may find that your operation is going 24/7. In Jamaica, we need to get there. We need to get there because if you look at our economy cannot be sustained on a system where services such as legal services are simply given within some long periods of time. Otherwise, entities are going to be missing the boat. The global market space your service can do. With the development of the internet technology, what you find is a lot of things can happen at the same time. So in our law offices, we use regular windows and little things like that. When you get to the LPO, your cost is going to be defined by the amount of technology that you put in there. Because this technology is going to be helping you to do a number of the things in a very fast manner, quickly, so that you can get them out of there. You have increased automation of legal functions. Again, technology is going to help you to do that. And of course, you have information security. So with that improvement in information security, what you have is that whole business where people were concerned because of lack of confidentiality and all of that, that is now gone through the window. So demand for this service gets greater because there's now a greater level of confidence. New technological tools is causing that. You have accessibility, of course, to outside talent. You have round-the-clock availability, as I've said, and the ability to cut back other operations. That is what companies are looking for. I am asked to add to the question, is this LPO opportunity perfect? It is not perfect, because to say it is perfect would be like my saying to you, I never lie. At some point in our lives, what happens? Those little white lies come, right? So for us to now say that the LPO thing is perfect is akin to that. Because, of course, we have some obstacles. We have lack of awareness. We have information security concerns. We have research and document review dominating the effective work. We have outsourcing requiring updates such as technology, mindset, and culture. So all of those things are barriers in the Jamaican market space to this business of legal process outsourcing. But I'm here to tell you that this opportunity is really real. It is real and that the investment is worth it. If you have law firms and other LPO providers earning up to it is estimated they earn up to $40 billion. It seems to me that since we don't want to go along the broke side, what we need to do is to align ourselves with some of those entities so that what happens? A little of the $40 billion will come down to us. True or false? Right. So guess what? I have chosen to do what? I don't want to go on the broke side, so I have chosen to align myself with entities that are along the path of going towards that 40 billion that they are talking about. I'm not there, but I'm saying I have started, right? And when you're doing a race, Usain Bolt, years ago, when he was in Falmouth, from shared content Trelawney, what happened? Nobody even know about him. He came to the stadium and he failed. Huh? But the first time he won a race, guess what? Everybody saw him, and now the whole world has seen him. I am very confident, I am very positive that the whole world will very shortly be seeing the Jamaican marketplace as an area within which to operate in the legal process outsource space. It is just a matter of time. And we as attorneys and practitioners and corporations, we have to get on that train. You are simply gonna have to train the persons to do it. Our culture does not operate in the way that a LPO service operates. And so the first thing you have to do to get on board is to train all the work that you get to do. People are coming from law school all over the world, even the same Norman Manley Law School, but they do things differently. What you want, standardization of output. So you may get a bulk of work, volume of work, but the output must be standardized.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV. Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your half-hour dose of the business of real estate, from laws and concepts to reality, building, buying, or renting. Or what about trends in decor or renovations? Home Sweet Home will keep you up to date.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Hello, my name is Blake Widmer. I'm the co-founder of Def Can Coffee. The exposure that we had to the just general community through Business Access TV itself is awesome. It was a big deal for them, you know, having BATV come here, and we were with you guys for probably 4 hours that day. It was a long time. We really appreciate your guys' openness to recognize that, yeah, captions are important. If a deaf person's watching it, how are they gonna understand what's being said? So looking back is just a big boost, encouragement for our team. If you're a business or an organization that wants to have yourselves featured on BATV, or you want to do advertising with BATV, what I would tell them is that you guys listen well and you ask good questions, and that will help at the end of the day deliver a really good product for your business too.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
You're tuned in to JamPro's Legal Process Outsourcing Forum in association with Norman Manley Law School. Please stay tuned for more highlights.
Centennial Legis Solutions was born out of a talk I had with Ms. Diane Edwards from JamPro. And in fact, I had been researching on it for over 4 years before then. And when she said to me last January that this is something that Jampro is looking into trying to promote. I immediately jumped into it by February because I said, Diane had been talking about this thing. I've been researching this thing all along, and guess what? I'm happy I've gone down the road because it's good to jump in the forefront and be a pioneer in this business. And so I'm happy I've done it.
Speak to the growth of your business so far.
All right, when we started, we had a number of hiccups because we had company, connecting but not paying, simply because Jamaica was not known for LPO service. Still getting there, but then since then, what we have had is that we have had persons who now believe more in this business because of the push that Jampro has been giving it. And so I have on board local and international partners. I am so happy that Jampro had and Norman Manley Law School had this seminar today, simply because no man is an island. No man stands alone. So what we have to do to get Jamaica to be known, just as what happened in the BPO sector, we simply have to get many, many players on board so that together we have strength in numbers and the world will be able to see us much better.
How can people with law degrees who are not necessarily attorneys be a part of the market? Speak to that, please.
Okay. The general rule is that non-attorneys cannot practice law. But within the LPO sector, some of what we do is not what would be considered the practice of law. And hence, we have some people who have degrees in law would be important. So hence, we have areas that practicing lawyers would be required to do and areas that non-practicing lawyers would be able to do. So it's not as technical as they say it. What is more important is the technology behind it and the level of confidentiality that you can maintain, because that is what is important to the marketplace.
As someone with an LPO business, speak to profitability.
Well, profitability, I'm working towards it. I'm getting there because the investment is significant. But once you have contracts in place, I'm sure that we're going to be making it. The Jamaica landscape is about to change significantly because with the LPO services, what you're going to find, instead of the lower level value chain service that Jamaica gets, the LPO service offers significantly more income for Jamaica. And so I would really be delighted if many other players get on board, get this business moving in Jamaica. We are equally and even more so up to it than India in terms of our location, in terms of the language that we speak, and so on. So I just want to say I'm very happy where Jamaica is heading and the work that Jampro is doing. Norman Manley Law School, that's where I was trained. I'm very happy for the work that they have been doing and the fact that they have come on board with it as well.
So you attended today's forum. What are your thoughts?
It was a very interesting forum. I've been watching Jampro for quite a few years, and I am interested in finding out the success rates of all the entities that they support. A lot of energy goes into it, a lot of investment goes into it, and I think analysis of the ones that succeeded and the ones that failed would help them in their model in future endeavors. They have identified LPOs as a future market that we could enter and also do a lot for the country and the people, especially with worthwhile jobs. Because so often the children in schools are demotivated. They're in an environment which doesn't engender easy learning. They have problems which affect their whole studying, and yet we have so much talent and so much success. Therefore, they are quite a pool that we can call on, especially with good training. And what came out of the meeting today is in the conversation was that we need to change a culture so that they understand that going through school, it was a matter of scoring to pass exams, getting certificates, getting degrees. But now it's about creativity, innovation, credibility, reputation, and no mistakes. Because when you make a mistake, it's very hard to recover.
And Marlon, the audience is asking if you could come up here to make a presentation, because I want to see more of you. To provide some guidelines as to creating the perfect LPO business, if that exists.
The sliver we talked about, the sliver of that $40 million that we talked about. How 40? Thank you very much. How big that can be will be directly influenced by how much you can scale. countries like India participate really substantially in that revenue in the market. And one of the big reasons is there are so many of them. And there are so many of the Indian population that are trained as lawyers. For Jamaica, what are we now? How big are we now? 2.7 million people. Of those, proportionately we're training a lot more lawyers than our market can absorb, but certainly not enough to power number 2 or number 3 LPO industry globally. That, however, is not a factor that's limiting enough to keep us out of the space. I say that because countries like Israel, most of the outsourcing Microsoft does is to Israel. That's as a result of a number of factors, including the fact that the guy who runs eDiscovery at Microsoft is from Israel. But they do well not just with Microsoft, but with companies like Microsoft as well. And they are participating meaningfully in that revenue, $4 billion it is now, that the market is seeing. So all that to say, scale's an issue, but don't think it's an issue that should hinder our progress in the space. Rates may be an issue. If we think in US dollars, you can get services from India as low as $10 US an hour. I'll just let that soak for a second. It may be challenging for Jamaica to deliver those services at those kinds of rates. India is the outlier in that respect. So countries like South Africa or Australia also can't deliver services at those rates. So that, again, shouldn't be the reason we don't play a meaningful part in the process. On the issue of rates and cost, Velma talked about the technology. In my practice at my firm, there are certain pieces of what we do that we offer on alternative fee arrangements. So we are able to say to a client, for a fixed fee of X, you'll get the work done. You don't have to worry about the hourly billings or whether it's going to be higher or lower. X is your cost. And we're able to do that because of what we've done with the technology. So we've tossed technology at these pieces of the process that takes away the human input that's required. And so that fixed fee, the margins on that fixed fee becomes bigger and bigger and bigger as we perfect the technology, because we need less and less and less human time input in the process. So technology is a key piece of how Jamaica could think about how we compete with respect to the rates that can be offered in other places. The time zone issue, few people mentioned, I think that's actually neutral for Jamaica. Because the intention would be, I would think, to service both North America and the UK. We have strong enough ties with both of those jurisdictions to provide services to those jurisdictions successfully. For North America, we have a strength in terms of the time zone. If we're going to collaborate in the way that I know law firms there like to collaborate with their outsourced partners. For the UK, we have the advantage also of being up while they're asleep. Security and ethics was a big concern for a lot of North American and UK companies and law firms thinking about the outsourcing alternative. Security in the sense that you're sending your data overseas to these countries that have less rigid controls around data privacy and data security than your jurisdiction does. Many clients would kibosh the idea for that reason. As Velma mentioned, that's less of an issue now, given the way in which these operations can be structured, where the data actually sits in the host country, while the lawyers in the service delivery center can access that data over the internet. The ethics issue has traditionally been a big issue. Some clients are uncomfortable. We know that North American lawyers and UK lawyers are trained to behave to a certain ethical code. The regulations are similar in terms of professional regulations, and people trust that, and people are comfortable with that. Not so comfortable when you go to India, where there have been examples of not so ethical behavior around things. So you're a massive telecommunications company, and you need document review. It's a highly confidential case. You send that case to your LPO provider. People begin to take pictures of certain documents. People begin to record the contact information of a CEO or a head of marketing, because they know they're going to move to that place soon, and they want to be able to contact somebody to get a job. These are all things that have happened and have scared certain clients into not wanting to try the alternative, depending on where it is. But LPO providers have responded to that with things like, access controls for areas in which people are working. People can't bring cell phones in. The databases they work in are locked down to read only. People can't print information from the documents they're reviewing. So where we stand today is that, at least in North America and certainly in the UK as well, the market is much more comfortable from a security and ethics perspective. So again, that shouldn't be a barrier that stops Jamaica from participating in the space.
So we were approached by JAMPRO to look at legal process outsourcing. We obviously are the strategic player in the market, in that we provide vocational training for attorneys at law after they have completed their undergraduate studies. And we also have a research publication education unit, which also provides training beyond our core training of practicing as attorneys at law. So this was obviously an opportunity that we could not miss.
What would you say was the benefit of this forum for attendees, I guess specifically the graduates of your law school?
There were a mixture of persons in the audience, younger graduates, older persons who have been out for some time, looking at opportunities to be LPO providers, and also our young graduates, or the employability of our graduates is something we are concerned with. And I think the panel was able to set out a know-how, some of the risks, some of the challenges, and to explain the market so that people could better understand it. So really it was an educational forum.
In regards to some challenges that were listed by your panels, it sounded like a lot of those can be worked out if lawyers partner with businessmen or entrepreneurs in order to get it off the ground. What are your thoughts on that?
That's clearly so, that we're talking about entrepreneurs, whatever their sets of skills and competencies coming together to provide a space in the market. One of the challenges is scale, as was said, and so it's about people coming together and providing strategic partnerships to deliver the skills.
So now you're having a forum on LPOs. What's next for Norman Manley Law School?
The Norman Manley Law School is interested in providing the training. Many of us are trained abroad. I practiced in the UK for 10 years. We have a pool of people to pull on so that we can actually train attorneys in the kind of practices that will be required from the firms from the UK, the firms from the US. And so we provide the base training, pull in the talent from abroad. So we're looking at providing training so that our graduates can take up the opportunities.
Special thank you to JAMPRO in association with Norman Manley Law School for putting on an informative session. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage of the Legal Process Outsourcing Forum. I've been your host, Amita Prasadweb, and thank you for tuning in to Business Access TV, serious about business.
I do have a dream, and I know you have a dream, that we can make Jamaica the place of choice for you to choose to live, to work, to do business.
We are going for the Jamaica we want. Making steady progress to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in our National Development Plan, Vision 2030 Jamaica. We have teamed up with valued partners, working through strong institutions to reduce inequalities in our society. We commit to being responsible in our production and consumption, ensuring we build sustainable communities in harmony with nature. Jamaica is making significant strides in providing quality, lifelong education for all, enabling our people to be engaged in decent work to drive economic growth, equipping men and women with the skills to build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industry, foster innovation, and utilize new technologies. Urgent action is being taken to manage natural resources responsibly, protecting clean water sources, ensuring access to water and sanitation for all, diversifying to alternative energy sources, conserving our environment and sustaining life below water and on land. Jamaica is making moves to ensure healthy lifestyles for the well-being of our people. We're promoting sustainable agriculture to achieve food security, improve nutrition, and end extreme hunger, putting in the work to end poverty in all its forms. We're on track in achieving our Sustainable Development Goals through realizing our Vision 2030 Jamaica. We will leave no one behind.
And I'm chilling right now because we're winning right now.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point, dissecting the issues. Offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On point. Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
On Point is brought to you by Dargin Global.
A very good evening and welcome to another episode of On Point. I'm your host, Patria K.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
And we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, you know what's on my mind though for the week? What is happening in the world in terms of stability, with the US just so suddenly pulling back from out of Syria and the support they were giving to the Kurds, I think it was there. It's just creating all sorts of instability. And that for me is maybe one of the most critical things this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's a very interesting time to be alive in terms of the dynamics of geopolitics and world politics and what's happening.
We might get to see a world war.
No, heaven forbid, Dennis. Where do we fall in that in terms of Jamaica? I mean, one small island nation state, everybody knows our name, 3 million little people. How do we make use of what opportunities may present themselves?
I don't think that there's much we can. I mean, we're a small country. I mean, what are we going to do? They say when the elephants fight, the grass suffers.
Mm-hmm.
We're like the grass. We're a small country. Climate change, for example, is going to affect us small island states more than anywhere else. I mean, in terms of our tourism, our land mass might be affected, the world is really at the mercy of these large countries now.
Absolutely. Another thing that happened this week, certainly to keep your eye on, I'm still watching this Akampong story. I have a vested interest in what's happening. I physically went up there myself. And
we didn't talk about the Royal Reed and Fitzpatrick.
We must talk about that as well. There are developments happening in that space. Charges have been laid against 5 people. And an interesting discussion as to whether or not the case will be tried by, whether the Crown will be represented by the DPP's office or a fiat will be given and external attorneys will be representing the Crown.
What I like though, I like the Prime Minister's stance in terms of, hey, we are not going to talk about it as a government. We're going to allow the police and the various bodies to do their work.
Yes.
And I think that should be the approach.
Political play by the opposition expecting, and one of the calls from Peter Phillips was a blow by blow from the Prime Minister as development proceeding. And I don't think that's his place.
It's not appropriate.
It's not his place.
He should not be involved in it.
Yeah. Well, in the world of business, a couple of things happening as well. Some interesting IPOs that we hear might be coming up. Quite a few of those are public entities that divestments are making, that divestments are going to be happening. We hear about JPS on the horizon. We hear about the Highway 2000 on the horizon. Divestments going to be happening by the government, and average people are going to be able to buy into some of these. Are all of them good buys, though? That's a discussion to be had.
I don't think 1 or 2 of them are, but maybe they have a plan to create some value.
There's some financial education certainly that people will need to do. Yeah? Well, coming up next, folks, we've got a lot in the show. We're starting out by taking a look at the tourism development product. It's the Heritage Week, and we're looking at how are we going to do heritage tourism right in Jamaica. And then also after that, we're going to be looking at the Spectrum Management Authority and how they are preparing Jamaica to make use of technologies.
But first, let's take a look back at some of the top business stories of the week.
At number 5, US President Donald Trump has imposed sanctions on Turkey over that country's military operation in northeast Syria. In his sanctions announcement, President Trump said he was halting negotiations on a $100 billion trade deal with Turkey and raising steel tariffs back up to 50%. The president also imposed sanctions on 3 senior Turkish officials and Turkey's defense and energy ministries. At number 4, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has downgraded its outlook for the world economy, predicting that growth this year will be the weakest since the 2008 financial crisis, primarily because of widening global conflicts. The IMF's latest World Economic Outlook, released Tuesday, foresees a slight rebound in 2020 but warns of threats ranging from heightened political tensions in the Middle East to the threat that the United States and China will fail to prevent their trade war from escalating. The new forecast predicts global growth of 3% this year, down 0.2 percentage points from its previous forecast. At number 3, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro ordered a 275% increase in the monthly minimum wage on Monday, the third hike this year as hyperinflation drains the value of workers' salaries. The minimum wage rose to 150,000 bolivars, that's about $8 US, from 40,000 bolivars. Additionally, workers will receive a food bonus of 150,000 bolivars. Despite the increase, the new monthly minimum wage barely amounts to enough to buy 4 kilos of meat. According to figures produced by the opposition-led National Assembly, annual inflation in Venezuela is currently running at over 50,000%. The government does not provide data on price rises. At number 2, Jamaica's unemployment rate continues to decline. It's now at 7.8%. The latest figures from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin showed that some 1,254,100 individuals were employed in the labor force as at July 2019. A larger number of females were employed, mainly in the occupation groups clerks and professionals, senior officials and technicians, and in the industry group hotels and restaurant services. The July 2019 unemployment rate of 7.8 percentage points lower than July 2018. The unemployment rate for youth aged 14 to 24 years was 20.2%, a decrease of 2 percentage points when compared to the rate of 22.2% in July 2018. Statin says the decline in the overall unemployment rate reflected a higher growth in employment than the overall growth in the labor force. And at number 1 this week, for the first time in 7 years, consumer confidence in the Jamaican economy is down. Consumers' optimism recorded a slight decline of 3.5 points with an index of 179.9 points for the third quarter. The dip is associated with consumers' current realistic perception of business conditions and their expectations for jobs in the future. Business confidence also dropped significantly, going down 9.5 points, recording an index of 141.2 points. Despite this decline, however, businesses remain positive that their financial position will improve.
When we come back from the break, we're talking Jamaica and heritage tourism.
Outsourced finance and accounting service. Growing companies face a challenge. For you to stay focused on building your business, you need solid financial management with a dependable accounting function, a resource you may not have in-house. That's where we come in. Dodgen Global provides startups and other businesses with outsourced accounting and finance solutions on a fixed fee basis. No matter what your size or fundraising status, we can tailor our services to fit your needs at every stage of your company's life cycle. Whether you want to add expertise to your existing team or completely outsource your accounting and finance functions, we offer reliable and economical options, including accounting system installations and upgrades, from simple to complex, help establishing preferred banking, legal, payroll, benefits, and HR relationships, paperless online bill payment and bookkeeping, financial reporting and advice for management and investors, financial statement audit management, sales tax compliance. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global, website https://dodgen.global.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Welcome back to On Point. Now, all week, Jamaicans have been celebrating our rich cultural heritage. And with Monday being Heroes Day, we decided On Point to take a look at a different kind of revenue potential for Jamaica: heritage tourism.
Talks of Jamaica cashing in on heritage tourism has been happening for years. The most recent talked about stalled plan has been the one to develop Port Royal and make the sunken city a massive tourist attraction. Business interests have also expressed frustration at the government's slow pace to make this a reality and to monetize other potential tourism heritage sites. Howard Mitchell, who was president of the private sector organization of Jamaica PSOJ, at the time urged the government to vigorously pursue heritage destination status for Kingston. The government is aware of the value of heritage tourism. In 2017, Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett noted that the growth in heritage tourism offers tremendous opportunity for Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. In an interview with JIS News, he said recent international tourism trends have pointed to a shift from the traditional sun, sea and sand phenomenon towards a more interactive experimental form of tourism.
Joining us now is the Executive Director of the Tourism Product Development Company, Dr. Andrew Spencer. Andrew, welcome.
Hey, Dr. Spencer.
Thank you for having me.
About the first question, what is the visitor who comes to Jamaica for heritage tourism? What are they looking for?
Oh boy, that's so broad, and I'm excited because you're doing heritage tourism, because I've often said that our competitive advantage lies in our heritage. It's one of those things that's almost impossible to imitate in another space. You can take pieces of what resemble our culture, but the actual authentic heritage of Jamaica is what we have to unearth. So the average visitor who comes to look for that, the millennial at this point, and we're looking at the future, these are the same people who stay in Airbnb, who stay in Trench Town, who go down to Seaford Town in Westmoreland. These are the kinds of people who want to, we refer to them in tourism theory as the explorer. Doesn't want to be caged in the enclave type of tourism, but wants to go out and live the life that the resident lives. That's a typical
value in that tourist, because they're not staying in the all-inclusive and they're not staying at these high-priced boutique hotels. They are a lot of times perhaps on a budget. Is there still commercial value in that type of tourist?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why this type of tourist is important, because they're the ones who want to spend in the community. It's why they don't choose expensive accommodation facilities. They'll stay in a bed in your home because they want to be able to go out and spend with the community. We've actually found that the spending for what we call the allocentric traveler is much higher than the psychocentric.
Really?
People think that the people who stay in the fancy all-inclusives are the big spenders, and some of them are. But really what you have are those individuals who want the prepackaged tours. They spend a lot of time and effort getting credit cards so that they can pre-book, pay for everything, and come here and spend not a single dime.
But let me ask you though, Dr. Spencer. Heritage tourism has always been touted. I know Dana McCauley,
yes,
for example, has been talking about it for a long time. And we do have a lot to offer. Our food, culture.
Pike, sorry, my brain
McIntyre Pike. Right, yes. So one is environment, right?
Yes. But that's where I wanted to go now. I mean, are we damaging ourselves in terms of how we have been treating our environment? Because the beaches are not as pristine as they were before. There's the way people dispose of their garbage, the damage that we cause to the drains and all of those things. It's a huge problem, isn't it?
It is a challenge. But I'll tell you how I view mass tourism, which is where I think you're going, versus this more sensitive type. Yeah. Per capita, you're likely to have a greater footprint on the environment, which is where I hear you going. But we feel that there's a critical mass that you need from mass tourism. And because of all that Jamaica has to offer, you can then diversify into many of these other areas that we've been trying to. And we're very committed to that, which is why Jamaica is one of the few countries in the world, and probably only one of two in the Caribbean, that has a dedicated product development company focusing on these issues, identifying the need to have more of this type of tourism. For example, we talk about over-tourism. We're not there yet in many of our spaces, but our approach to that is to divert a lot of these tourists outside of these concentrated areas into more of the unknown spaces. We have a partnership with Loop now, which is taking people to some of these unknown heritage sites and exposing them, teasing them out, getting people to understand that there's quality in some of these spaces that we just simply don't know about.
Part of why heritage tourism will be successful, or one of the ingredients,
yes,
Jamaicans have to know about the places for it to actually work. And there are lots of Jamaicans who don't know Jamaica.
Yes, yes.
How do we bridge that gap?
You know, there have been many campaigns. We've tried to embark on a staycation campaign, which is encouraging people to visit these spaces. But most of our efforts to getting Jamaicans into the tourism space have largely been to give lower room rates so that they can stay in hotels. I made a point today at another function that the only way you get your destination right is if you focus on the right pull factor. I don't go to Paris for a hotel. I go to Paris for the Eiffel Tower.
Absolutely.
I don't go to Rome. Yes.
But you know, Andrew, I have done, I tend to try and do a lot of staycations, right?
Yes.
And visit the various spaces and things. But some of these spaces you go to, some of the falls and that sort of thing, we don't have any proper control. So it's overrun by local people who really does a disservice to the offering, you know, with the harassment, the infrastructure sometimes around the attraction is not up to scratch.
No, we understand that. And so it's sometimes a quality issue. But here's where we come in as TPDCO. We work with the community. One, you mentioned harassment. We have multiple anti-harassment initiatives that are now trying to break the back of that. There are, you speak about quality issues. We have an entire department dedicated simply to going in and looking at what is acceptable for an international market. We're looking at, again, dispersion. How do we move people out of some spaces into another space? How do we manage effectively? We have EIAs at our disposal of environmental impact assessments, social impact assessments. We have the data. I think we're in the best possible position that we've ever been to be able to treat with some of these issues. So I hear you, but I want to make the point that Jamaica has over 100 internationally recognized attractions. I was told by someone today that it's in excess of 150. Most of us know single digits, right? I mean, if I ask people, and some people tell me they've been to 8, 9, maybe 10 of these, and I put it to you that there's a lot of quality out there. We have some upgrading to do, you know, but certainly the quality cannot just rest in those 10.
And I come back to the differentiator because all our Caribbean neighbors have sun, sea, and sand. All our Caribbean neighbors have a shared history.
Yes.
Where if we're talking true heritage tourism, their stories are going to be similar to ours. So in that 100, 150 attractions, what is going to make the Jamaica difference? That's going to have somebody in spite of the crime, in spite of the fact that Jamaica is more expensive than a lot of the other destinations, what is going to make them choose us over one of our other Caribbean neighbors that's cheaper and safer?
I'll tell you why. We already have a super advantage just with brand Jamaica. And you made the point about crime. We've had some challenges, and every time, it's an interesting relationship that you wouldn't expect. Your crime figures sometimes go up, arrival figures go up even more exponentially. And so I'm making the point that there's inherent in the notion of Jamaica already a positive image that is fighting hard against any other negativity that would come. If we carefully plan, if we are very deliberate in our intentions to get individuals to a particular level. You know, when we go in and do training with some of these individuals, we realize that some basic skills that are required to get them up to the level. So we have a product development department that does that. Then they pass them on to product quality, which is supposed to help them to get licensed. Once we are able to put that stamp of authority, we can vouch for the quality of that space. We've had some good ones over the last few years. We have the Rastafari Indigenous Village. We're proud of that. We're very proud of what we've been able to do at Bunkers Hill. There are other things that we're intending to do that are unknown. For example, some of the things we don't like to talk about, some of the darker parts of our heritage, our history. You have the Zong experience, the Zong massacre in Black River. We're about to create a monument and an entire story around it. You know what's lacking for most of our spaces? The story is not told accurately. The narrative.
And that is something that I'm curious about, because oral traditions we're going to rely on heavily to ensure that we keep to the integrity of the story. That when a tourist comes and we tell them X, Y, and Z happens, we are factually correct with the X, Y, and Z that we tell of the history, the heritage. And so from where you sit at TPDCO, how do you ensure that we are not telling the people foolishness? That the community members who are a part of this storytelling are being factual?
It's a very delicate balance, because we also have the issue of ensuring that they tell their story authentically and that we don't sterilize it to the point where it loses all of its real essence. But we have a team now, and I'm proud to say that in the last year, we've got approval to hire heritage officers. And we're going for people who are trained in the area. I have one person on staff who I call the archaeologist. So I have 3 heritage officers right now, planning to build that team even more, who are now going in, looking at the stories. We're the ones creating storyboards. And these storyboards that we put in these spaces, sometimes somebody doesn't even have to tell the story, but we are teaching people what the inaccuracies are, correcting those. And if you're not so sure, look at the storyboard, point to it, take somebody to that storyboard. Recently, someone took me to a storyboard we had put up and said, look, this is what we need. We're in the era of millennials who are just taking pictures. They want to go and say, I've been there. And the sign in front of Milk River Bath, for example, is not enough. They want to have the wording that's there, and they'll take a picture of that. They'll go back and they say, I was here.
Yes.
Or they just send it.
But you know, I still come back, Andrew. I mean, I think Jamaica has some beautiful places, and I've gone to quite a few of them, right? I like to every now and again head out. But I still think that we have not been able to capitalize on it. So, I mean, it's one thing to say that you go somewhere and it's in a natural state, but in natural state sometimes it's not that attractive. Right. You need to build around it. I mean, I go to a lot of attractions overseas, and they develop the thing around it so that it's inviting, you know, so that the people who are there are properly authorized. You understand what I'm saying, Patrice? Yeah, that's what we need to capitalize. I mean, we have the #1 tourist destination in the Caribbean, right? Which is Dunn's River. And that's lovely. But why aren't we developing the other places like that?
Part of where Dennis is going is that there are some attractions that miss the wow factor.
Yeah, exactly.
You get a tourist that's coming here, especially when you talk about the millennials, and they're not okay with walking through and a boring, monotonous recount of a horrid history of slavery and beating of black people. They are looking to be entertained.
Yes.
How do we create the entertainment wow factor?
Important. So you see the wow factor now varies based on your type of tourist, and we're very keen on knowing who is coming to us and who we're attracting. So you're right, there are those who want that dark history, I've discovered, and there are those who don't want that. And so the idea is the tour, the narrative must appeal to the type of individual you're attracting to a certain space. Now, as you pull them, you have to be clear on what it is you're going to direct them to. And it's the point I was making earlier, Dennis, as we continue to upgrade. Well, you hinted at something. You say, you know, why are we not doing? I'll say we are doing. The progress is a little slow, but we're in there trying to get them up to the standard. Because I know the wow you're talking about. But here's what I was saying about the model earlier. If you don't allow your attractions to be the pull, they will not attract the resources to become the pull. What am I saying? If you are coming to a destination for its accommodations, for a big brand accommodation, and then you're directed to a few attractions on its periphery, there's something fundamentally wrong with that.
Yes.
When you go to Arizona, you're going for the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
It's just a reality, you know, and so therefore you're going to pump resources into the Grand Canyon. I'm saying the same thing. You highlighted Dunn's River, which is our poster child. Some other poster children have come up over the years too. You have other ones that have the wow factor, but we are trying to identify the winners in the location. So we're taking a cluster approach. We just got funding in partnership with JSIF to look at something called the READY program, which is to help to pull these things, these attractions up to the level that any international visitor can go into them and feel that someone has put some thought into this.
There's some grassroots fundamentals, and I see the work happening, but I don't see it happening enough. I was able to go to Akangpang 100% with the directions of TPDCO signs.
Yes.
You spend Loomis there?
That's a whole other conversation. But a lot of our attractions are difficult to find. We're not big on signage, and we don't appreciate the fact that people don't come from here, not just non-Jamaicans, but even Jamaicans.
Very true.
We don't come from here. How do I find this place? And telling me that getting there is part of the adventure is not a story I buy. If I can't find it, I can't enjoy it.
Yes, no, I agree. And so we now have a big program. We have an all-island signage program. It's almost like you saw it coming. So you asked the question. We actually just committed in partnership with the Tourism Enhancement Fund, 25 million. And we're going to engage the NWA to execute a signage program to all of our attractions. Now, it brings us back to Dennis's point. If you start pointing people in the direction of these things, you better ensure that the quality is of a certain standard. So we're making sure that we get some of these things right. We're identifying the key locations that we want to showcase. And as we chart the path to getting these things ready, we're going to also ensure that when you're physically trying to go to them, you can get to them.
I'm staying on that cart before the horse. One in particular that I've been angst about is this whole Port Royal business. Pirates of the Caribbean was a gold mine for us that we should have capitalized on. We're building out this whole port facility. The ships are coming to what?
Yes. So as the product development company, we have been brought to the table, and you asked the right question, because to have a fantastic port when the outside environs from the port.
Well, not just the port, the history of the place.
No, I know, but in order to tap into that history, let me use Falmouth as an example. In order to tap into the history of Falmouth, you have to go beyond the walls, right? So when you create a little space inside a port that looks good, and there are those who want to venture outside of that space, you have to ensure that there's a, when somebody comes out, that there's a walking path into a space that makes sense and you're not stepping into sewage. These are things that the product development company, in partnership with the NSWMA, in partnership with NWA, partnership with NWC, in partnership, I put up a chart in the office of all the agencies that we interact with, and I ran out of space.
Because you're coming off of a ship, you're not mobile, you don't have a vehicle, you're new to the space, you're going to be walking.
Absolutely. And then you're going to need expert tour guides as well.
Yes, but I mean, I'm happy that Patria raised a point about Port Royal, because that for me has been a bugbear.
Yes.
I ride out to Port Royal all the while, right? And it's a place where a lot of people exercise between airport and Port Royal. But when I think about it, Port Royal in itself should be like a mini Disney World with all the history and everything.
I think you should be careful how you use that, you know, because there was actually a proposal to pass by Disney World.
I know, but it should be, right?
Yes, yes.
There's so much history out there. The food is good. You know, the history, everything.
Pirates
and
buccaneers and treasure.
Outside of that, Andrew, when you look at it, my concept is that the whole strip from the airport down to Port Royal should be developed with tourism-related things right down.
And that is the discussion we're having. I mean, we're having a discussion a little late, but we're having that discussion. The KSAMC is on board with us. We're having the discussions as well with all of the partners to make sure that we have almost another elegant corridor of sorts leading into, if you want to call it a hip strip. In fact, we're thinking of
a hip strip. That should be the entertainment place,
zone.
So that people in Kingston can sleep at night because they don't have the dances going
that we have here about Jamaica and heritage tourism, I sincerely hope carries through, because there is an opportunity. And what I love about it is the opportunity is not for the big man who own the big hotel, it is for the people who live in the communities to tell their stories. Absolutely. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having us.
More On Point, folks, after the break.
Internal audit. Internal audit service is vital when organizations aim to achieve reliable financial reports and regulatory compliance, navigating risks, streamlining operations, and promoting stakeholder confidence. The benefits of a high-quality internal audit are limitless, especially when you secure yours from a firm with deep industry experience, exposure to hundreds of organizations, dedicated professionals, and proven methodologies. Whether you're looking to establish an internal audit function, attain or maintain compliance with various regulations, mitigate your risk of fraud, or gain an overall assessment of your internal controls, you can count on Dodge & Global for reliable and timely business solutions. We've helped organizations nationwide and across industries to establish internal control structures, create an internal audit function, or improve an existing one, and maintain regulatory compliance. We provide ongoing education as regulations and public perceptions change. We are trusted advisors for management and boards. External auditors can be confident in our work and its results. Let Dodge & Global be a turnkey solution for your organization. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global. Website https://dodgen.global.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters.
Call us at 876-291-6233 or 876-376-4225. Email sales@batvja.com.
Welcome back to On Point. Now, according to Minister of Technology Favour Williams, there are a whole slew of new technologies on the horizon. We're talking about developments in broadband. We're talking about 5G technology. Where does Jamaica sit in all of that? And what do we need to do as a country to prepare to take advantage of these new developments? That's what we're talking about on Point. My guests in the segment, we have the Managing Director of the Spectrum Management Authority, Dr. Maria Myers Hamilton, and also a band engineer at Spectrum. We're going to find out what he does. We have Ty Shan Tracy. Folks, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Let me start with you, Dr. Hamilton. Can you tell us, and for the viewers, what does Spectrum do?
So thank you, Dennis, and for having us here today. We are actually the agency that manages the monitoring of spectrum in Jamaica. We issue license, we regulate the space.
What do you call Spectrum for the viewers?
Well, there is a technical term, and I'm going to defer to Taishan to give you that technical term, but if you think about it, think about radio frequency. We manage that radio frequency space, anything wireless.
Okay.
So and you have licensed and you have unlicensed spaces, of course. We focus on the licensed spaces where devices like certain walkie-talkies would work, certain radios that the ships would operate on, the airplanes that come in, how they communicate with the tower, down to the simple wireless device that you access your car. So all these, anything that uses wireless, just think of Spectrum.
If there was any agency that needed to forward plan, Spectrum certainly would have to be one.
Absolutely.
Because as life changes, as we start getting into this Internet of Things, and we start getting into these connected homes and lifestyles, everything seemingly now requires some kind of wireless connectivity that you must manage.
That's true.
How do you plan for what doesn't even yet exist?
The outlook, we would say we base our plans on the International Telecommunication Union. They have recommendations. So every 4 years, we attend a meeting called the World Radio Communications Conference, WRC, which basically lays out the regulations for what services can be used in what frequency bands. And then we take that now according to our region. So as I say region, the world is split into about 3 regions. We, the Americas, are in region 2. So we'd be following the guidelines and recommendations for region 2 based on the ITU's allocations.
Help me and my non-technical mind to get it.
All right. So
is it a finite amount of spectrum that we have? So are we going to get to a place where it's done?
Run out.
And we've run out, and then I can't turn on anything in my house anymore, or if I buy my new car, I won't be able to do the keyless entry. Is it a finite spectrum?
all right. Yes, it is finite to answer that question.
Apocalypse is coming.
Yes. Terminator.
What is how we allocate. So say
Correct.
for instance, the FM spectrum, or FM band, which goes from 88 megahertz to about 108 megahertz.
And that one people are familiar with
That
because your radio, your favorite radio station uses the FM band.
Yes. So if that space, that 20 megahertz space, is occupied with users of 200 kilohertz, so this is 0 point something megahertz.
Fraction.
Yes, fraction. So if you can have a finite number divided into that 20 megahertz, and you'll have a full band. Other people would want to get into that space, but according to the ITU regulation that I mentioned earlier, the space is just 20 megahertz. So for someone else to get into that space comfortably and not cause interference to the other users of the band, someone will more than likely have to be removed, or if technology comes along again and improves our modulation, we can shrink the space of the current occupants to allow for more.
Interesting. And just to answer, segue, that's why digital switchover, which I've heard we've heard a lot of, is very important. So if we digitize the signal,
you get more.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yes, spectrum is finite, but if we digitize it, then we can operate in a more effective and efficient way.
Because you're dividing it up into more.
Exactly.
So it is the same space, but you just use it more efficiently with digital.
Perfectly put.
You see, I'm not so bad.
After all, we've got some new things. So I'll give you an example. If I'm in particular places and I try and open my car, my key doesn't work. When I press the little remote button to open my car doors, there are some places that it just doesn't work.
I know.
Would that have something to do with the spectrum?
Yes, it does. So again, a typical example which I like to use. This teacher, which I met, real case, she bought her car from somebody who brought it in for her. You know, she didn't go to a dealer. She parked it in an area in Portmore. When she was ready to start, it wouldn't start. So her keyless device that opens her car and starts her car is working on a frequency being used in the Portmore vicinity.
By somebody else?
Yes, and the wave itself, that transmitter, is more powerful. The power it's transmitting is higher, so it drowns out her car. So she had to tow her car out of the area completely. So imagine the safety issues with that. As a woman, a teacher possibly not getting enough money, having X amount of cash on her, and she didn't know that this problem exists.
This is a whole new way of looking at the world, because much of the technology that we use,
listen to my follow-up question on what you just asked now. So the bad service we get from cable and Flow and Digicel in terms of the network, does this spectrum have anything to do with that?
No.
You're one of the people in problems, no. No, but I do want to get back to...
But they have challenges, and they have challenges with theft. To be very true to them, their services and their quality of service is affected by theft on their lines. And as soon as they put up infrastructure, sometimes it's taken down. And this is not new only to Jamaica. All over the world, people suffer from theft or road work. If road work goes on and persons are not careful, fiber is cut and that entire line has to be replaced.
How do we keep up as a country? Because much of our technology consumption, things that we don't make ourselves, things that aren't always going to come from the United States because people can get them cheaper from the Far East, which, based on what you're saying, is a whole different region with a whole nother set of spectrum. So how do we as consumers
be informed? Yeah, so you be informed. One of the things you can do is go on our website, and there's a search engine where you type in the number, you flip over the device, you type in either the serial number or the manufacturer brand model number, and check to see if it's one of the approved items that we have done a type approval on. Once that is done, you'll know it will work because it has been type approved prior to it coming here.
But then that check is after you've bought it, eh?
No, you can do it before.
You can do it before.
But remember, it's on our website. So before you buy it, you ask the person, whoever you're buying it from, to do that check for you to determine will it work, or if it comes, what pin settings need to change. Because sometimes it's just a pin setting.
So you make an alteration to the product for it to be able to work.
Exactly. The main thing is to be informed and use this information carefully, guarded, that you don't run into a safety issue. In the middle of the night, you're going into a pharmacy, you come out and you can't start. And to get a tow truck to come and get your car now, or somebody, that's a safety issue.
What will 5G mean for Jamaica?
So 5G, right now, as Taishan mentioned, we're attending the RRC as a delegation coming up in 3 weeks' time, by the end of October.
Where is that?
It's going to be in Egypt. And the entire world will be there. All 3 regions will be represented. The space for spectrum will be decided there for 5G, because right now it's still in deliberation. What will be that space for 5G? So I want you to think about 5G as a roadway. So the first thing, you have to build that road before now that particular car can drive on that road, which is the layer of applications and technologies. So,
Sure. As in she said space that would be recognized for 5G. In terms of space, like how I mentioned, the FM broadcast being between 88 and 108. So this would basically say what or identify which band, I like to say the word band, will be allocated for mobile IMT, international mobile telecommunications, or 5G. So as we can speak to our country right now, we have up to 4G LTE technology, which has been or was identified as being in 700 megahertz, 17/2100 megahertz. That was decided four years prior in the previous WRC, World Radio Communications Conference
So I
meeting.
hear you saying these things. What I'm wondering is whether or not we are missing out as a country.
No.
And I tell you why I asked the question.
Sure.
So when you explain to me about radio and the bandwidth of radio, I know that every household is making use of this. I can select my favorite radio station. I know what frequency it's on. Wonderful. If I stop the average person on the road and ask them what is 4G and how do they benefit from it, they probably
They
can't
don't know.
tell me.
Right.
And we're about to now talk about 5G. And so I asked the question, are we missing out? Are businesses missing out? Are people at home missing out on opportunities that they could be maximizing on with these new technologies that you are doing the work, making sure we have available to us, but we don't know what they are, so we're not using them?
So our minister is very passionate about connecting the underserved and the unconnected, because it is a big thing where the unconnected, the statistics are very large. So you and I have internet access at our homes, but the average person does not have internet access. Why? Because possibly fiber has not been run to that space, because of the terrain, a number of reasons. So wireless technology, like satellite technology, although it's not 5G, and you must remember, cutting edge is not always necessary. Typically, you go on like the 4G, fourth generation, which is a stable platform, tried and proven, and there are a number of different things that can be run, like telemedicine. We just had a recent forum in Montego Bay where we demonstrated using a satellite link telemedicine, where a doctor would sit in a rural community, take the vital signs of persons and feed it back to his colleague in Kingston. The doctor in Kingston is looking at the person to determine if this person needs to be air ambulanced into Kingston, or it's nothing, it's not a biggie. Antibiotics can be treated, based on the symptoms. So what am I saying? The truth is, the main task, what we need to do is to get that underserved and underconnected on. Because as I said before recently, information in the digital age is a birthright.
But let me ask you, is it possible to go to a new technology, and given the infrastructure and the appliances we have here, it actually makes it worse than it was before?
No, it depends on planning. So when you roll out any form of application, you have to be mindful of a number of variables. Sometimes the capital outlay is the only thing persons think about, but the other side of it is the whole operating costs, the continuity, the business continuity back end. So take something like telemedicine, or even distance learning, which is a big thing, reaching persons within their community and carrying education into the field rather than forcing a child or a person to drive to a location. You plan for the layout, but then it has to be maintained. So the hotspots, there has to be a cost associated with constant maintenance. The content, the digital content also has to be developed. So there are a number of facets, and when you're planning a digital strategy, all the components must be included.
You just raised an issue that I don't even know how you sort this, because much of the usage of the spectrum will be by people who are seeking free applications, free apps. You purchase your fancy refrigerator, that's going to tell you what's not in there and what you need to go shopping for. There's really no cost to that information coming to you. But you would have had to spend, I'm assuming, to be able to make the spectrum available for that conversation of things in my house. What's your revenue model like since people are trying to get
not
free?
us. That's not us.
Well, wait, I'll answer
go
the
ahead.
non-revenue part. Maybe you can answer the revenue part.
Sure.
The aspect of connected items and connected, so you mentioned the fridge, you mentioned the microwave connecting to each other, but that all has a space or a band for itself. So the unlicensed band, I think more director spoke about, we pay attention to the licensed band, but there's also an unlicensed band. So Wi-Fi, Bluetooth.
So you don't manage that side?
So it's there. We tell you that our manufacturers out there build their devices to operate in that band. So everybody, lots of devices operate in that band. So it's kind of interference high. So it's usually a hopping technique within that band to find a good stable signal to operate. But we don't need to manage that band because it's, like I said, pointing back to the ITU and the recommendations, they have allocated that space or band for unlicensed use, and manufacturers like that band. So most of their devices that they manufacture will be operating in that band.
Very complicated space.
Yeah.
So like your Bluetooth, your headpiece.
That connects with my phone.
Yes. That's
Your
not
Wi-
you. No.
Your Wi-Fi router. It's us, but it operates in an unlicensed.
Does it make it easier to eavesdrop on an unlicensed band than a licensed band?
I would say, I'm not sure, but in that case, in a licensed band, you can claim for interference.
Correct.
So say, for instance, you have a point-to-point dish network setup, for backhaul or whatever reason. If you experience any interference or suspecting any eavesdropping on that signal, you can come to us because you have already paid for that.
Correct.
And that's your licensed spectrum to use. So it's part of your network, and no one else apart from you should be on that frequency.
Dennis has gone into spy mode, and I'm not going down that road with him, folks. Thank you so much.
Make sure you get your
for
license
joining
band here.
Thank you so much for joining
You're
us. We
welcome.
had with us two folks who taught me so much today, Dr. Maria Maris Hamilton and also Tai Shay Tracy. We'll take a break. Go again? Taishan Tracy. We'll take a break and come back with more On Point.
Corporate restructuring services. In today's evolving commercial and economic environment, businesses are continually seeking opportunities to manage operating costs and tax positions, as well as contain cash expenditures. Entity structuring can help achieve these goals, but often presents many challenges for multinational corporations. In addition, the OECD's Base Erosion and Profit Shifting (BEPS) proposals are expected to impact the bottom line of affected organizations and result in some business restructuring. Crow Jamaica delivers an integrated approach to clients' corporate and reorganization needs. Services include simplifying group structures, executing domestic and cross-border transactions including mergers, demergers, disposals, and company migrations, transferring assets and business units, aligning legal structures to business models, establishing national or regional hubs, converting subsidiary company structures to branch structures and vice versa, integrating legal structures following a merger or acquisition, providing practical advice and assistance throughout the planning, development, and implementation phases of corporate reorganizations. Crow Jamaica assists businesses and other advisors in developing and implementing efficient, cost-effective legal structures and business operating models. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email people@crowjm.com. Website www.crowjm.com.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Welcome back to On Point. Heritage tourism is big business across the globe. Just how big? Here are the numbers.
40% of international arrivals are considered to be cultural or heritage tourists. It's estimated that the direct global value of culture and heritage tourism is well over $1 billion. The Asia Pacific APEC region rakes in approximately $327 million of this amount, directly providing some 50 million jobs and another 75 million jobs indirectly across the region. The most popular heritage tourist site in the world is the Great Wall of China, which saw almost 10 million visitors in 2018.
And our On Point team hit the streets and asked, how can we use the richness of our heritage sites to attract more visitors to Jamaica?
I believe that proper maintenance is very important, and taking care of this garbage issue that we have a problem with, making sure that the attractions are always clean.
Remodel that to them, like change color, paint, maybe new design.
Basically, the government can create more events for persons in like local people to go to these sites to get to learn more about their culture. Because most persons aren't really educated about how things went down back in the day, so having the knowledge about your history would actually, make people want to know more about you, because you know your history.
It has to come in a package, a whole package with food places to relax and so on. And people who can tell the story of what the historical site is about.
Could make them more attractive by beautification, planting up flowers and stuff, maintain them properly, do more advertising.
I would say we could create some form of package deals around the specific heritage site. So it's not just about going to the heritage site, it would be like an event. So you would go to the heritage site, you might have dinner while there, or do a fun activity while there, or get some form of entertainment while there to make it more of an experience instead of just visiting somewhere.
It's not only about what the leadership of the country or the persons who are so charged to do the thing. It's about the nation as a whole, wanting to enhance themselves and to better themselves. In other words, there has to be a national mindset. It has to be about patriotism, and the desire to see your country move in the right direction. I'm not so sure that nationally that sentiment is commonly held.
Great design is not only how things look, but also how well they work. The GLC, more than meets the eye.
It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test. It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test.
Free eye testing is back and it's here to stay. Island Eyewear offers free eye testing every day, all day at all locations island-wide. Conditions apply. Make your appointment today at www.islandeyewear.com or call us 630-1180. Island Eyewear, your style, your price.
It's Island Hour, free eye test.
So much to unpack out of that show. I particularly love that discussion with TPDCO.
Yeah, no. And when you brought up the point about Port Royal, it just shows how much we have not been able to capitalize on what I think is the biggest value added that we have a competitive edge, which is our heritage, our culture. I mean, Port Royal in any other country would have been a worldwide attraction.
Number one.
We just leave it there to rot.
I mean, I still have questions. And if we're going to talk about heritage tourism, the stories are one thing, but also the artifacts that back up the story are another thing. Where are the chests of gold and what's left of the sunken city? How much of that can we put our hands on as a country? How much of that have we been able to dig and save? And is it sitting in somebody's special living room somewhere?
I don't know.
The artifact side of things is equally as important if we're going to roll out the heritage tourism.
And you're right. I mean, we don't know where all of that is. We're not a country that treasures our history, you know. We don't preserve things, you know. And we can see it in our infrastructure. Once we build something, we just leave it till it run down, and then we build something else.
I know, I mean, you talk about your travels, and I've gone to quite a few countries as well, and they've hyped up these destinations, and I go there with this huge expectation, because I go there with my Jamaica, which is high, you know, as a Jamaican. There's a high level of expectation and entertainment value that you expect, and I go to some of these places, and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, but they attract a lot of visitors worldwide.
Absolutely. What it would crush me if anybody came to one of those places that we touted as being a great Jamaican attraction, and the takeaway was that's it. I certainly feel like Port Royal right now is a letdown in the condition that it's in.
Huge letdown. I mean,
it's a missed opportunity.
I think that we could have earned billions of US dollars from Port Royal. I mean, the people who are living there, who are basically living in close to poverty, should not be, because it just has so much value potential.
Absolutely. And then the other discussion with Spectrum was another interesting one. I certainly learned a lot because it wasn't a space that I knew much about, and how allocation was done and how we plan for the future. What is interesting is a lot of technology is being injected into our future.
Yeah.
And how much are we as a government planning for that technology?
I don't, you know, it's true. I mean, technology really, you can't do without it today. I mean, if your internet is down at your house for 10 minutes, you know, it's like having babies. You know, if you don't have a computer at work, you're unproductive basically. And when I look at all of that, and I look at how unstable our telecommunications and internet services in Jamaica, I don't think that the government and the OUR has done a proper job to ensure that we have that stability, because that's our productive base.
Absolutely. As the world gets smaller as well, there's going to be this real consideration, because the internet is making everything available to everybody, and we're chasing price. And so if the cheapest car is in Japan, we're going to buy the car in Japan, and then when it comes here and it doesn't work, what's the repercussion for consumers? It is something that manufacturers are going to have to wrap their minds around, as well as the Consumer Affairs Commission right here in Jamaica. But that's where we're going to have to wrap the show today, folks. The very hardworking crew deserve all our thanks. Thank you for everything that you do. Thanks also to you, the viewers, for tuning in to another episode of On Point for one more week. I'm Patria K.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
See you next week.
On Point was brought to you by Dargin Global.
Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your